If you love tarot decks, you're probably familiar with the excitement of bringing in a new deck only for it to sit there. Maybe you pull a few cards, but you don't reach for it for all kinds of readings. I'm here today to defend the deck collection. I don't expect a single deck to do it all within my practice. I know that many of us have a hard time balancing the siren call of a shiny new deck with actually putting all of our decks to good use. Personally, thinking about my practice in terms of the types of reading that I like to do helps to give all of my decks a job, and I don't feel so overwhelmed by having a larger collection. If you've been feeling disconnected from your decks or overwhelmed by choice, this video might give you some ideas for building a more intentional, evolving tarot practice. Side note, this feels like a natural follow-up to a video I made about 2 years ago, sharing how I approach my most used spreads and everyday tarot practices. If you want to check out that previous video, it will be linked in the description. Let's start with the big idea. One deck doesn't fit all, and trying to make it work that way sometimes feels like it's flattening your practice. I am talking to the people who like to collect a shiny new deck, who get excited by new releases. And we all know that different decks have different voices, different styles. Bringing guidebooks into it changes the whole game, because guidebooks can definitely have a more explicit lean in maybe a more positive direction. Maybe they have a particular theme. The list goes on and on. There are a million ways to present the same 78 cards. And this isn't just aesthetic, although I do pay a lot of attention to deck aesthetics too. I'm a Libra sun. I love me a curated aesthetic. Deck choice shapes how you're going to interpret the reading, the kind of tone, the tempo of the reading, the depth of the reading. Deck choice matters. So let me walk you through how I approach this, what kinds of readings I do regularly, and how I choose my decks for each one. Sometimes the reading comes first, sometimes the deck choice comes first, but either way, the pairing matters to me. I consider there to be a kind of scale between easy to difficult decks to interpret. Basically, do I want a quick read or one that makes me work for it? And this often depends on the level of energy that I have and the amount of effort that I feel I am able to put into my reading on any given day. When I want something on the easy to interpret end of the spectrum, this is where the quick intuitive pull comes in. This is when I need clarity, I need an easy reading, and I want something that's going to resonate with me immediately. Don't want to do a deep dive, don't want to do a whole ton of journaling, just want to pull a card, get a message, move on with my day. This is best with like your Rider-Waite-Smith clones, at least for me. I've been dipping my toe into Thoth, dipping my toe into the Tarot de Marseille, but Rider-Waite-Smith is my comfort zone, so something like the Blacklight Tarot from Tarot Collectibles is really good. No spread, no question, just one card, 3 cards, lay them out, see what I get. I also like something like my More of This, Less of That reading, which is just a very basic 2 card, have them talk to each other, more of this, less of that. What could that mean for me? I pull, I read in the moment, but I rarely dip into the guidebook or do any kind of journaling with this sort of a reading. It's much more transient. I also like a tarot and oracle pair. These are kind of my bread and butter. I love a deck pairing. This is pretty similar. Sometimes I'll reach for a guidebook for the oracle deck especially, but with something like the Tarot del Fuego and the Outgrow Yourself, there is no guidebook for the Outgrow Yourself, or in fact, the Tarot del Fuego only has a little white book, so these just are a tried and true pair. I can read them happily and easily. I can just get a message and go. While I'm mentioning Oracle, if I think I want something a little bit more reflective, where I do maybe want to do some journaling, do want to sit with it, let it marinate for a bit, I like to reach for Oracle decks here. Maybe Oracle decks on their own. I could do something like maybe the Pink Sugar Oracle, where I pull a card by itself. It's pretty quick and easy, but because it's an oracle, because it doesn't have the meanings that I've like memorized, the keywords that I know inside and out, I can sit with it a bit longer, maybe dip into the guidebook, ask myself some questions, relate it to my day, that sort of thing. Or I like an oracle deck with questions on the card. My favorite for the last few months has been the Prairie Majesty Oracle for this. On the opposite end of things, there is a lot of structure and a lot of study in my tarot practice. I am a self-proclaimed tarot nerd. I love a guidebook. I love a deck study. I love getting into the weeds of it. I love exploring all the nuances, debating on keywords for myself, you know, getting really into it. So often I will pull out a deck that I want to work with and then form a reading around it. At the moment, the Tantric Dakini really deserves a lot of my study time. Maybe I want to do like a deck study with the Witch Sister is one that springs to mind right now. That is a deck that really deserves some attention. I've had it for about a year. I think this was in my most recent neglected decks video, where I spoke about how I've basically ignored this even though I really want to work with it. I mean, deck collector problems, am I right? This is also where my daily card pull comes in. I call it my monthly daily. I show this off all the time. I think I need to do an updated video on this practice. Let me know if you want to see that. I choose a deck every zodiac season. At the moment, it's Gemini season. I'm working with the Terra Volatile. Pull a card a day. I read the guidebook. This practice is a practice for juicy guidebooks. I just get to know the deck over the course of a month, or in this case, the Terra Volatile has been a solid favorite for, how long have I had this? A couple of years? It's been pretty much a favorite since the day I got it. So it's just an excuse to spend a little one-on-one time with it. And this daily practice actually doesn't have a question associated with it. It really is a mini daily deck study. My monthly daily mini deck study. How many more syllables could I fit into that? And then also on the study side of things within my practice, I've got the Tarot Lab, which I run over on Patreon. This month we are doing tarot astrology. We're looking at astrological correspondences in the tarot, how they show up, what you can do with them. So this month I'm doing lots of readings with the Lilither, maybe with the Deleted World, maybe the Thoth even, because they all have the astrological glyphs front and center on the cards. They support the technique I'm playing with. Again, this is like practice first, deck second, or practice first, question second. This is more of a little portion of my practice where I will pull all kinds of questions. I'll read all kinds of readings, but what I'm focusing on is the astrological associations within those readings. So maybe that's a bit of a tip if you're learning a system or you're learning an element of a system like astrological correspondences, or I don't know, elemental dignities, maybe numerology. Choose decks that show you the system, that are focused on displaying that system in the imagery. And then the third broad umbrella of types of reading within my practice is the, I guess, more creative readings, you could say. This is the good stuff. This is like peak tarot nerd behavior. So this is like the mind maps, the multi-deck inquiry. If I feel like I want to work with multiple decks, then once again, the decks come before the nuance of the questions that I'm asking. And actually, as I'm saying all this out loud, very rarely does the question come first. Because to me, tarot is a tool, but it's not like I'm picking the best tool for the job. I'm picking the best job for the tool. I don't know what that says about me. I think I just have a lot of questions all of the time. So I can choose a deck and find a question that fits. But anywho, all that to say, sometimes I feel like working with multiple decks. Like I said, I love a deck pair. I also really love a little mini deck capsule collection. This is where I love a mind map reading, and this is sort of overlapping with like a big collage spread, or Kellyanne Maddox, I know, calls them sacred patchwork readings. Basically, I pull a card or two from a little handful of different decks, and then I interpret how those cards interact with each other. I mind map them. Currently on my desk, I've got this sort of vaguely ecological inspired collection. I choose the decks according to a theme. They fit together, they feel thematic. Sometimes it's a bit more of an obvious theme, sometimes it's aesthetic, sometimes it's just like the vibes feel correct in my brain and I can't necessarily put words to it, but they read like a dream. And then sometimes I actually do choose a deck to match the theme of the reading. Sometimes the reading does come first. Like for instance, lately I've been using the Gay Marseille with my Spectrum of Spreads zine. This is a little zine that I made of tarot spreads inspired by the meanings of the colours of the pride flag, the 6-stripe pride flag. And obviously it's June, it's Pride month, happy Pride. So I've pulled this out, I'm kind of slowly working through it over the month. And the Gay Marseille is the perfect pairing to go with this mini zine. And actually I think this might be the only example where I have had the reading in mind before I choose the deck. Although I suppose the intuitive sort of everyday single card, get a message, that is more of a feeling than a deck focus. Although very rarely do I have a specific question in mind for that. I just want a message for the day, so I'll pull a couple of cards. I'm learning things about myself as I record this video live on camera. So to kind of pull that all together, one deck doesn't fit all. I am a deck collection defender. Again, that's no comment on anybody who prefers to just have 1 or 2 decks that they know really, really well. I prefer to have a collection. I like having a variety of decks. I like being able to choose something that is much more in line with my mood on any given day. And personally, I find that it does enrich my practice because I see tarot as a tool, and I see having a variety of decks as having a variety of layers that I can look to, rather than it being, I guess, more of a fixed or more of a static system. If I just had the one deck that represented everything, I like seeing those visual representations on my cards. By the way, if you want me to expand on anything I went over in this video, I know it was a little bit of a whistle-stop tour. That was intentional, otherwise this would be 2 hours long. But if there's anything you'd like me to explore in a little bit more depth in a future video, please do let me know in the comments. And of course, this is always changing, always evolving. I just did a tarot deck unhaul because there were a whole bunch of decks that either never worked for me or no longer worked for me, because part of having a large deck collection is that things are gonna move in and out. That's fine, that's okay. I refuse to feel guilty about that. It's always changing, and as long as I am engaging intentionally with my decks, I think that is the most important thing. And I think on that note, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me. If you want to see more from me, especially my kind of deep dive study practices, please do come join us over on Patreon. That is where I run the Tarot Lab. That is where I do a lot of tarot experiments. That is where I play around with the structure a lot. We have a lot of fun. I hope you will consider joining us. There is a link in the description if you'd like to find out more. My Spectrum of Spreads zine and my other tarot zines are available in my Etsy store, which will also be linked down in the description below. And that's it from me. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.